So I'll just say hello first. And my name is Shannon Hargrove. I'm a member of the career team. And this is our kickoff session to our LinkedIn series called Dive Into LinkedIn. This afternoon, you're going to hear from our guest speaker, Naomi Kohler. She'll introduce herself in a moment. And we're going to talk about building a career brand on LinkedIn. And then in subsequent Wednesdays, the next 3 Wednesdays, we're going to dive deeper into a lot of the things that Naomi's going to touch on today and talk more about creating your profile, maximizing your network, and leveraging LinkedIn for your job search throughout the rest of the month. So without further ado, I'll introduce Naomi Kohler and let her take over and take us on this journey through LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Shannon, and thank you, Julia, and thank you all for having me here with you today. So as Shannon mentioned, my name is Naomi Kohler. I'm a career coach. I have a private career coaching practice, and I also run and manage a group and a nonprofit for executives that have had employment instability. As such, I'm continuously creating LinkedIn profiles and working within the auspices of career sites such as LinkedIn and Indeed, discussing resumes, interview strategies, and all aspects of career management. So I look forward to sharing my knowledge of LinkedIn with you. And Shannon, I don't know if you'd like people to ask questions along the way or wait till the end, or how do you prefer?
Sure. You know what, everyone, if you have a burning question while we're walking through, you can put it in the chat and I'll keep an eye on that. And if there's something, I'll just, raise my hand to you, Naomi, to answer.
Okay. I'll look towards,
if that works for you.
Yes. I'll look to you for the guidance then.
Wonderful.
Great. So I'll get started. Thank you. Okay. So why is LinkedIn important? So LinkedIn is your web page. It's basically your career portal for everything that has to do with branding yourself as whatever it is that you're studying and hoping to be professionally when you graduate from Mercy College. So if you think of your LinkedIn page, which is called a profile, as your own personal website, and all of the things that you would do to find a particular product or brand within their website. So utilizing the right words, seeing where on the Google page or whatever browser you use, the site comes up. All of those things are exactly the same for LinkedIn as well. So we're going to be discussing LinkedIn in depth and its importance to your career, present and future. So Bullhorn is it's a recruiting information site, and they did a survey of over 160,000 recruiters and found that 97% of recruiters use LinkedIn to find job candidates. That translates to, if you are not on LinkedIn, and I'm not just speaking in terms of having your profile on LinkedIn or just a couple of words on LinkedIn and a couple of contacts, but if you're not a regular user, let's say 5 or 10 minutes a day, up to 15 minutes a day, you're missing out on possible job opportunities and the possibility of connecting with people who can be your next manager, the next person to find you, or your next mentor. So LinkedIn is pivotal right now to your job search and your job search future. So I'd like to start by discussing 5 of the initial setups for LinkedIn, so you have an idea of how to use LinkedIn. So as I mentioned prior, the ability to find the right candidate on LinkedIn is something that recruiters are utilizing LinkedIn for. Finding people on LinkedIn who are not looking for a job is considered a passive candidate, someone who's not actively looking. So even while you're in Mercy College, and let's say you have a part-time job, you might be studying something of interest or connecting with the right people within your professional career, your aspirational career, and that will help you towards your future career. There are many people who at 18 years old start to build their LinkedIn profile, and so they're building their LinkedIn profile with part-time jobs, with interests, with college interests, with where they are the incoming class of, what their graduation date is. And so by the time you're graduating, you have already set up a LinkedIn network and the basis for applying correctly using LinkedIn and connecting with recruiters within your profession. So utilizing keywords which best describe your work is how someone on the outside, and by the term recruiter, I mean human resource professional who may work within a corporation, or what's called a recruiter who works to find people external to a corporation. So either of these people utilize LinkedIn. They do it the same way you use Amazon. They go on within the search bar and plug in what it is they're looking for. Let's say they're looking for someone who understands HTML or knows coding or Java, for example. So those might be some of the keywords. The location might be New York City based, and they might want to find, maybe they went to Mercy, and so they want to find people who are Mercy alum. That's how specific you can get on LinkedIn. Even more so, utilizing something called LinkedIn Recruiter, which I'll show you a screenshot of a little further down the road. So it's really important that your content defines you. That means looking up words, thinking about what it is in your career that defines that career, trying to come up with statements about what it is that you do, even if it's not professionally yet, but if it's within coursework. If you have a thesis, if you have a project that you've worked on for a market research class, and let's say you investigated the differential between Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola as it plays out in social media. So those are all really interesting things, and there's a place for all of that on LinkedIn, and we'll discuss that. So the words you use will help the person who's looking for someone like you and could be you find you, just like when you make a purchase online. So it's very important to be definitive. Bullet point number 2. It's very important that you customize your profile to show your best accomplishments. So if you think that every point that you put on LinkedIn should be a bullet point that starts with a verb or an adverb, it should have movement. It should have action to it. Liaise, collaborate, develop, create. Those are all phenomenal words to start. And you could research other resume-focused words online. Sometimes all someone needs is that beginning word, and then the rest of the statement is very easy to come. Think about what it is that you do. Think about your achievements, your accomplishments, and the results. If you have quantitative results, like maybe you're in a sales role, maybe you are doing business development and you prospected 100 accounts, and out of those 100 accounts, 15 of those became customers, and you increased profit margin at your company by 25%. Those are all great numbers. Those are all great things to put into your LinkedIn. Within LinkedIn, you could reach out to grow your professional connections. Unlike Facebook, where you are connecting with friends, and that's great, LinkedIn also has that aspect of connecting with alum, and I too am connected with a lot of my Pace University alum, and even some high school alum on LinkedIn. But what can really help you is to reach out to people who are successful within your profession. For some of you, you know who those people are. You've worked for them, you've spoken to them, you've heard them speak at Mercy College. For others, it might be researching them on LinkedIn and then defining how you can connect with them. And one of the ways to do that is to join appropriate groups. If you have an interest, whether it be internal, in school, external to your personal life, there's very likely a group for that. And just like with the groups at the university, there are like-minded people within similar groups. So for example, I'm part of a social media group, I'm part of a nonprofit group, I'm part of a curriculum group because I'm also a professor. I'm part of several career groups because that's what I do professionally. The beauty part of the groups is that it gives you an opportunity to minimize the millions of people that are on LinkedIn and find the people who are like you and interested in this, passionate about the same things that you like. Within the larger groups, and some of the groups have 2 million people participating in them, you can also find jobs. Oftentimes these are jobs that other group members are posting that you wouldn't see elsewhere. So this is also a really great benefit of being a part of groups. The more you participate in groups and on LinkedIn, the more it increases your search engine optimization, so that if someone goes onto Google or whatever browser you might use and looks you up, like for example, I'm not the only Naomi Kohler, but I'm typically the first Naomi Kohler that comes up because of my participation on LinkedIn. So if any of you have names that are more common than others, this is a great way to get your name on the top when people are looking for you within a browser. My last point here is to use a completed profile to apply to jobs in LinkedIn. More and more companies are using LinkedIn rather than applicant tracking systems, which are these very lengthy forms to fill out online about your application to their company. And they're doing what's called parsing. Parsing is when an organization uses your LinkedIn profile to pick up words and dates and to fill in the form for you. Through LinkedIn, you can apply to a lot of jobs. There are many, many employers around the globe that utilize LinkedIn for their jobs. And with a completed profile, it is less work to do. And most recruiters, whether or not they're using LinkedIn for their job section, posting their jobs to it and getting applications from LinkedIn, will still require, with an asterisk, your LinkedIn profile URL as part of their application. So be prepared and have a completed LinkedIn profile. This is the top section of my LinkedIn profile, and I wanted to walk you through the different sections here, because this information, as I said, this is like your home page for your career website. So the background that you see is something that I personalized. That background is like a palette for you. If there's something particular you do, like let's say you work in the automobile industry, you might want cars in the background that indicate the future work or type of companies that you want to work in. If you're working on website development, you might want to have HTML or some coding going on in the background. So that's a great way to personalize and let people know from the beginning who they're talking to, something about you. It doesn't have to be necessarily career-oriented, but it shouldn't be something personal. It's very important that the picture is just of you. I've seen many pictures that have sort of like somebody's draped hand coming across their shoulder. You want to make sure that you cut that part out or have a picture taken professionally for LinkedIn. If you are an accounting major, the type of clothing that you wear on your LinkedIn photo might be different than, let's say you're in the heavy metal music industry. So you need to make sure that the pictures represent your industry. I was working with someone early career, such as all of you are, and his LinkedIn photo was very buttoned up looking, and he was working in the tech industry. And so that's the first thing that you need to look at. You also want to make sure that the picture is one that looks not very busy in the back, so that people really can see what you look like and that the focus is just on you. So that's the photo section. The the LinkedIn has different filters, so that if you don't like your photo, you can always use LinkedIn as a filter. Even if you don't have Adobe Photoshop, there's a great back end for this section. And the pencils and anything that's LinkedIn Blue is something that you can always edit. So as soon as you see one of these LinkedIn pencils in LinkedIn Blue, or any section in this LinkedIn Blue, you can edit it. So LinkedIn gives you sort of a constellation background, but you don't need to keep it. And more people have been changing it to personalize the space. Oops, sorry. Let me go back. Okay. So obviously your name, if you have any advanced degrees, you should list them as well. In terms of your job title, for example, I'm working at 3 different places simultaneously, and so I choose what I do best. So if you're not working in your field, but you're studying for something very, very specific, or let's say you're right now working, or before COVID, you were working in a store, let's say, or your store is, or a restaurant, and you're working with monetary transactions. So you could use something about, responsible for monetary transactions. It could be things that you do. It doesn't have to be necessarily a title of a job. People always get sort of, thrown off by this section, because if you're not currently working, if you're a full-time student, or if you're babysitting right now to pay for school, whatever you're doing, there's part of it that you can put up there, whatever you're studying, whatever you do well. So, and I like these vertical bars. I think they are a very clean look. So if you have a company that you're working for that has a LinkedIn page, and the company has a logo, that will always translate to this section of LinkedIn. The logos are very important, because a recruiter can click on that logo and find everyone who is in that same, went to that same university or works in that same, in that same organization. It's very important that you note that if you don't write the name of the organization the way the page is written on LinkedIn, you won't get that logo. So if it's a large organization, you can be sure it's there. You just have to play around with the wording, because sometimes it's like maybe it's PepsiCo, maybe it's Pepsi-Cola. So you need to find the right page that coordinates with what section, what broad-based company you worked for. This is one of my favorite sections in LinkedIn, and it's very overlooked. It's add profile sections, and we will talk about that at the end. But if there is something that you did, LinkedIn has a pocket for it. So it doesn't matter if it's a small project, if it's a dog walking business, whatever it is that you did, LinkedIn has the availability for you to let people know about it. So the About section. It might be that you first do your resume and migrate the content to LinkedIn, and then create your About section, because sometimes it's that going through those motions let you really understand what it is that you are about. So you can write this section using the word I. Within resume speak and other sections, you really shouldn't use the word I as much. But this could be a narrative, it could be creative, it could be whatever you want it to be. It's a good thing to fill out this About section, and you could also do research on summaries within resumes, so that you can get an idea of what other people write. More creative fields, the more creative that you should be in this section. So 5 criteria which companies and recruiters look for on your LinkedIn profile. Completeness. So LinkedIn gauges completeness with some kitschy phrases like all-star and things like that. But the point is that the more content you have on LinkedIn, and the more connections you have, and your picture filled out and a headline, the better your odds are that people will find you using the language of the internet, which is Boolean. Boolean is the search language whereby people put in keywords, it goes through the web and come back through the spiders and result in a catch. So if someone's looking for someone with a particular background, let's say it's project management, living in White Plains, having attended Mercy College and received a bachelor's in digital arts, they can find you. So you might want to do your own searches and see if you come up where you expect to. And if you don't, or if you come up on the second or third page, you might want to research other people and find out what they have said better than you, so that they have a better placement in the results. Your picture. It's important to have a clear, friendly, and appropriately professional image. The best way to do that is to look at the picture of other people you work with, other people you go to school with, see what their attire is, see where their picture is taken. You don't want it to be that the person is focusing on the background. If it's a lake, I once was working with someone who was holding one of these edible arrangements, and they come in a lot of saran wrap, and it was the glare of the saran wrap and strawberries within it. And the first thing was, you got to get rid of the picture. So make sure it's a professional picture that's not distracting. LinkedIn works best at 200 plus connections, and professional connections are a form of credibility. So if you are within a field, like let's say it's movie production or the music industry, there are a lot of formidable people, or investment banking. There are a lot of formidable people on LinkedIn, and others that are early career as well. You can work through the groups to send messages to people, because you could send a message to people that are within your groups. That's also an added bonus of these groups. So with that, you can say, hey, I see you went to Mercy College and graduated in 2010 with the same major. I'd love to speak to you for a career mentorship. Can we connect? You just send that to a bunch of people, and all of a sudden your connections grow and your credibility as well. Details that indicate who you are professionally. Think about action words and accomplishments, achievements, and results. The action which you are most proud of in school or outside the work that you do. If you ran a marathon, that's something that's worth noting on LinkedIn. If you were a salutatorian at your high school, if you took a coding class, those are all things that are also worth noting on LinkedIn. So start each point with an action, and then think about how it's individual to you. You don't want that bullet point to be applicable to anybody else but you. Think about a great day at work you had, or a bad day at work that you had and you solved it. Any solution that you have had. So those are great indicators of the type of work you'll do once you graduate from Mercy College. Groups are evidence that you're engaged. So join and participate in groups. Recruiters look through your LinkedIn, and at the bottom it gets to interests, and part of that is groups. So if you're involved in a lot of groups within one particular field, it shows that you have focus within that particular field. So think of groups as another way to let people know how serious you are about your career branding and about your future. So networking on LinkedIn. So a lot of people feel that LinkedIn is a flat tool, meaning that you make the connection, you make your profile, and then you're done with it. You connect with a couple of people, and then you don't check back at all to see if you have messages or requests to connect. But that's not the case at all. So after your profile is complete and it's looking really impressive, you need to start connecting with other users. Typically, LinkedIn works best at 200 or above connections. And I know it sounds like a formidable achievement to get there, but once you start using LinkedIn, you'll see that other people want to connect with you. And LinkedIn also suggests people to you that you might have known from your past life or from past schooling or from past positions that once LinkedIn gets to know you, and again, that's through that word Boolean, LinkedIn will start to look towards who it can connect you with. When you have over 500 connections on LinkedIn, you really start appearing in industry searches. But you don't want to just connect with a million different people. I look to see if somebody is connecting with me, if it makes sense. Do I know them professionally? Are we in the same field? Have we worked for the same organization? Did we go to the same school? So I have a lot of connections from an industry I used to work in. I used to work in the I used to work as a global recruiter within the automotive aftermarket industry. It's a very specific industry. It's a several $billion a year industry, and those connections still sit within the vast majority of my LinkedIn. And because of that, I have over 3,000 connections. That's not typical. It's really because I was within that field. But you don't want to just accept connections or solicitations from LinkedIn. So first, look to see who's asking you to connect, go to their profile and see if it makes sense to you. If that person has a lot of connections in common, then it might make sense. Connect with people in your industry that you could see yourself working for in the future and who could be valuable in your career. So let's say you want to work for MasterCard. If you put in the words MasterCard and then you put in and recruiters, you're going to get a bevy of recruiters who work for MasterCard. See if they'll connect with you. Write them a little note. Always write a note if you don't know the person personally that you're connecting with. Say that you're graduating from Mercy College and would love to speak with them about their career. Do they have 10 minutes for a Zoom coffee? And a lot of people are doing Zoom coffees right now. And a lot of people are very happy to take time out of their day on video conferencing to help someone. So again, just to reiterate, always send a personalized note when sending a connection request, a quick message introducing yourself or explaining why you want to connect. Once your requests are accepted, don't stop there. So sometimes people say, oh, I got that connection. That's great. Now you want to use that connection. So send a note, ask for a conversation, write a little note just saying you think it's really great that they were able to, work for this organization or move on in their career. Keep tabs on where your connections are going. If they're celebrating work anniversaries, make sure that you're visible on LinkedIn. Comment on one another's posts, like or share content. Periodically reach out to people, check in with them and see how they're doing. Networking is about creating and building relationships. If you're a silent connection, your relationships will never grow. And if you reach back to these people for help in your future career, they may have forgotten who you were to begin with. This is what a LinkedIn invitation looks like. And the invitation says include a personal message optional. So I would say that personal message for someone who doesn't know you is always very important. You only have 300 characters, so use it wisely. It doesn't have to be a very long statement. Hi, I'm graduating from Mercy College, 2021. I see you graduated in 2019. Was wondering if I could talk to you about what the job search was like. We have the same major. That's it. And best and, sincerely, warmly, and your name. Use that note, save it somewhere on your desktop, and you could reuse it. So you just don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just make sure you personalize it to the person's name and make it easy for yourself to use everything that LinkedIn has to offer. So as I mentioned before, this is something called LinkedIn Recruiter. So this is a tool within LinkedIn that is a subscription-based tool that recruiters use to find exactly who they want for a position. And this is why, and it's very illustrative of why it's so important for you to build your content within your LinkedIn profile. This is very expensive. Recruiters spend like $3,000 a month for this tool. And what it does is it allows the recruiter to say, I'm staffing a project management position within the greater Chicago area, and I'm looking for someone with business strategy and analytics skills who in the past worked for one of these companies and attended Northwestern University. That's how specific recruiters can get on LinkedIn. So if you're missing any of the data within any of these fields, even if you have all of these attributes, no one's going to know it. And guess what? No one's going to find you. So LinkedIn will give you, so out of all of the millions of people on LinkedIn, 9,000 have these attributes. You could see 9,650 total candidates. And then the recruiter can use Boolean to make it a smaller search. You can always cast a wide net and then you could make it smaller, but you can't really go conversely if you have too many specifications. And that's the same for if you're looking for a job, it's just the opposite. Too many specifications, you're not going to find a lot. If you have a wide catch, you could always narrow it after the fact. So LinkedIn Recruiter is really indicative of why the words that you put on the page are so important. If the person or people didn't put down anything about business strategy or analytics, these 9,650 people would just be like ghosts to the recruiter. They would never show up. Applying to jobs on LinkedIn. So as mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, a lot of companies are using LinkedIn for applications. So this is what the jobs section looks like on LinkedIn. And it's up here at the search bar. It's this little briefcase. I don't know if you think it looks like a briefcase or not, but that's what it's supposed to be. So if you click on that, you have fields open. Again, you know, not dissimilar from shopping on Amazon or any, you know, or any given site. So for this search, I chose marketing and within the location of New York. So New York is very broad. You can narrow the search, but LinkedIn only lets you narrow it if there are opportunities within that section. So if you put in Stanford and there are no marketing opportunities in Stanford, LinkedIn would kick that back to you. So that's a way of knowing that it was too specific. So for this search, I said entry level, but you don't have to. There are lots of different levels and some of them aren't clear. Like entry level in LinkedIn could be anywhere from right out of school to 5 years, because entry level is a very broad term right now. So date posted, I typically look for jobs that are posted within a week, because recruiters typically, in this case I did within the month, but recruiters typically get about 200 resumes in within a week. And if your resume comes in later than that first week, it's, you know, it's not that it's not a great resume, it's just that no one's going to have to read it because they probably already have 10 or so candidates to contact. So they're not going through the full scope of the 200 resumes that they got in. So LinkedIn, you could specify companies, job type, whether you want it to be remote, and there are other LinkedIn features. But as I mentioned, the more you put in to make it very specified, the less jobs that you would come up with. So in this case, for marketing in New York within the month, I have a little over 5,000 results, and you could see the dates that they're posted. And as I said, I went to Pace University, so it'll tell me how many people, how many alum of Pace work at that organization. And these are pretty formidable companies. This is Datadog and Revlon and CDM and the NBA and DAC, which is a great Westchester-based digital marketing firm. So it will show you to click here to fill out the application. The application might take you to the company website, or it might be that it's a LinkedIn application utilizing your LinkedIn profile. If a job like the NBA job, I did this last night, this came up 5 hours ago from the time that I was on the computer, so about 8, I was on about 8. So about 3 in the afternoon, that's something worth noting if this is your background and something you're interested in, because you're going to be an early application, and that's a really good thing. Remember, I said that after a week, a recruiter has about 200 resumes. You want to be the first. So, you know, that expression that sounds so cliche, timing is everything. In terms of applications, timing is everything. So you want to keep up on this. Okay. So we talked about groups. So I wanted to show you what a group page looks like. So this is a group page for a social media group. So this group has about 2 million members. So the way LinkedIn Groups works is that it's really beneficial because if you're in a group, those 2 million members become what's known as second degree connections. If somebody is a second degree connection of yours, it means that you have the chance to send them a message or to connect with them. So by joining bigger groups, you're being strategic. And LinkedIn is nothing if it's not strategic. So be thoughtful about it. Stay within your career path so that there's like a thread that goes through your LinkedIn that really indicates who you are professionally and what it is that you're focusing on, whether it's healthcare or business, whatever it may be, journalism, whatever it may be. Try to stay within that. And then there are also hobbyist groups within LinkedIn that are, like I think there's a rugby group and a rowing group within LinkedIn, but for professional groups, this is great. So within LinkedIn, there are typically groups that accept people without looking at their profile. Then there are groups that take about a week or so. They will review your application, which is your profile, and then they will accept you. So it might be a week or two before you hear back. These 3 dots in LinkedIn, if you click on them, you could leave any group. So let's say you're in a group and you aren't interested in that field anymore. So you can leave that group by just clicking on those dots. You can also set the settings so that you're not constantly getting updates from the group. And there are groups for so many, there are a lot of, anybody who's into sustainability and green solutions, it's a great avenue for that on LinkedIn. Engineering, robotics, there are groups for everything. You could see some of my groups. This is the name of the organization that I run, the program for executives that are having career instability, Association for Talent Development, the Chronicles of Philanthropy. And if you feel free to look at my LinkedIn profile, and at the bottom at interests, you can go into my groups and see some of the groups that I'm in. If you click on their icons, you can find the groups. If not, if you go into the search bar at the top of LinkedIn and you put in whatever it is you're interested in, sustainability, and you go to, there's 3 dots at the end of that search bar that are connected to the word more, M-O-R-E. And when you get to the drop-down box, it says groups. So you can ask for a return on groups in any field. So this is the LinkedIn profile checklist. So as we mentioned, the photo, it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be a selfie. It can be something that your relative takes when you're against a wall someplace, as long as you look natural and appealing like this young woman does. This is a person who is not employed as of yet, and so her title is Gadget Lover and Aspiring Engineer, and I think that that's a phenomenal title. It shows passion for her field, and it tells a lot about her in a few words. Education, she's still in high school. Summary, she starts with, I live for tech. I mean, it's great. It's not a lot of words, but it's really telling. I feel like this is somebody who I'd love to talk to and love to, get a chance to hang out with, because personality comes across the LinkedIn profile. This is what she's doing now. She's a repair tech for Best Buy, and she had a scholarship from her high school. There's a lot of room, as I said, within LinkedIn, there's a lot of room for adding things such as this. Headline tells people what you're excited about now and the cool things you want to do in the future. And this is a great example of it. So as I said, it doesn't have to be a formal title. It could be your passion. It could be your goal. It could be your aspirational career. Just let people know what, that thing about you that's going to make them want to connect with you. Summary, describe what motivates you, what you're skilled in, and what's next for you. What are you studying? What do you hope to do with that? Where do you volunteer? Have you raised money for COVID relief? Are you baking brownies for people within your neighborhood who have food instability? So these are all great things to talk about within the summary section. Experience, list the jobs you've held, even if they were part-time, along with what you accomplished at each. Include photos and videos from your work. There's a lot of media on LinkedIn. If you put together a video for a volunteer project or for a project that you felt passionate about, you can definitely put it up on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a little bit finicky about certain media, and it might not look exactly like you want it to, but for the most part, LinkedIn is very user-friendly. So this is a video that Amy made for her teammates on how to replace cracked iPhone screens. So a good one for all of us to have. Honors and awards. So if you earned any sort of prize, whether it be in your house of worship or in your school or in your neighborhood or in sports, there's a place for that from LinkedIn. So let people know in a robust manner everything that they can know about you to make a clear decision on if there's something in your background that's appealing to them. So to continue on, courses. You don't have to put down every course, but let's say there's an Egyptian history course that you took that you thought was just phenomenal. And if you were on an interview and asked to talk about it, you would talk passionately and enthusiastically. Those are the types of courses that you want to list. Like for me, there was a financial accounting course that I took that I really struggled with. Wasn't a course that I would want to talk passionately about, though I did solve it by a lot of tutoring, so it was a good story. But there were other courses that I did projects that were more, that were more appealing to talk about. So you don't have to put every course down. You don't have to put the course number from Mercy College. And if you came with an associate's from another school and then migrated to Mercy College, you can put those courses in too. LinkedIn will ask you where that course was taken, and it will connect back with the university once you put that college in your education. Skills and expertise. At least 5 key skills. LinkedIn shows 3 of them, and then you could be endorsed by your colleagues, by your peers on LinkedIn, people who've worked with you and know that you're good at that thing. It could be volunteering. It could be that you're really skilled in writing poetry or painting. If LinkedIn doesn't have a skill that coincides with what your skill is, you can always add the skill in, and then you get a chance to move the skills around so that the 3 that show your best work. Remember, only the top 3 get what LinkedIn calls pinned. The other ones still sit in the LinkedIn profile, but they don't appear unless someone hits the word more within your screen. Organizations. Have you joined any clubs at school or outside of school? Do you hold a position of leadership in any of those clubs? Do you volunteer for a food bank, or do you volunteer for a homeless shelter? Those are all things that you can list within LinkedIn. Volunteer experience and causes. It doesn't have to be a paid job to be work. So if you volunteer, let's say at a dog shelter, and you run the front office and you've been trained at QuickBooks, so you handle the money management, that's considered work within the auspices of your experience as a college student. So consider it as such. And also consider it as a volunteer experience or a cause that you're passionate about. Education. There's nothing wrong with listing your high school. At a certain point, you won't want to have it any longer. But at this juncture, you can absolutely still have your high school on your LinkedIn. And it's a great way, even as you get older, to connect with people from your past. Include summer programs. If you do a semester abroad, or you were in a local program for like a local tech program, or a local program like Houses for Humanity, and you learned how to build houses. So those are all things that you can add. Recommendations. So LinkedIn has a section for recommendations. The people who recommend you must also have LinkedIn profiles. So it can't be that they give you a paper recommendation and you upload it. It has to be someone who's also on LinkedIn. You can ask prior managers to write a recommendation for you. Some people might say, if you can write a few words, then I'll edit it, and that's fine too. this gives people credibility. It shows the strength of their skills. And for recruiters, it lets someone know that that you were a good coworker or a good leader or a good manager. So it's very important as well. All of these sections that we just talked about are under this add profile sections within your LinkedIn, which goes back to the heading that I showed you. And if you click on that, there's a drop-down box and you could add this whole multitude of sections. Here's another early career example. So this is someone who has a professional photo, uses a middle name. So maybe this is a common name. So using a middle name is a way to set himself apart. And there are people that, there are a lot of people with their names. So you might want to consider that. This is someone who has a summer internship and is currently at the University of Texas at San Antonio. So Ivan has a very clear mission statement using the word I, and that and also works with his own business. So has a social media business with a partner. And so that has a call to action. If I could help you, please do not hesitate to contact me. Very, very clear. So just another form of an early career example on LinkedIn. LinkedIn also has this section for students. Oops, sorry. And here is the URL, and it's a great bevy of videos that you can access and that are very, very helpful. So I would suggest look at LinkedIn University. There's a students section, and LinkedIn could be really beneficial for you in your job search and everything leading up to your job search to create your career brand on LinkedIn. A couple of points that I wanted to mention is that social recruiting is huge. So it's not only LinkedIn, it's there are Facebook, Twitter, and Indeed and Glassdoor are also names that come up successfully within career recruiting, and they're places where people have profiles. You just want to keep in mind that the top reason organizations use social media for recruitment is passive job candidates. And if you weren't on at the time that I spoke about it, just to mention again, passive candidates are people whose profiles are loaded into, let's say, LinkedIn. However, they're not necessarily actively looking for a job, but their background is so interesting that they're coming up on the radar for people that recruit within that field. So get a jump ahead of your graduating class and really start working on your LinkedIn. The other thing to keep in mind that almost 40% of organizations have disqualified a candidate because they found concerning information on social media profile or through an online search. So what I say to everybody is Google yourself. Google yourself before you start your job search. Google yourself when we get off this, our time together today. Make sure you know what's out there about you. Even if it's not about you, I had a client who had a name which was also shared by a criminal. So there were a lot of newscasts on that criminal, and he had a problem with how to articulate that he wasn't that person who kept coming up on Google searches. So it's important to know what happens when people Google you. Make sure you're aware of that content. This, by the way, for anyone who's going into human resources, SHRM is the Society for Human Resource Management, and it's a great thing to be a part of. So that concludes our LinkedIn session for today. I welcome you to connect with me on LinkedIn. You could also LinkedIn message me if there's anything that, within your career search now or years from now, you'd like to ask me. I'm more than welcome Mercy College students to reach out to me. So thank you very much. And Shannon, I turn it back to you, and I appreciate our time together today.
Thank you, Naomi. That was really great. A lot to think about, I think, and apply to your LinkedIn profile if you have one already, or to get you thinking about starting one. So we have a few minutes so we can see if anyone who's on the call has a specific question or something, we want to go back and talk a little bit about. So you're welcome to either put it in the chat box if you have a question or comment, or you can unmute yourself and show your video and speak with us directly. So I'll just wait to see if there's any question.
I guess I can chime in while people are potentially popping their questions into the chat. I'm Sarah Shepard from the career team. I'm hoping to get a group photo of us here today. So if we could stop screen sharing and then, smile or anything like that.
Sure.
I'm not sure who has the screen share.
Naomi's in control right now.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
Don't be shy, guys. And I will do a screenshot in 1 second. All right, so ready? 1, 2. No, that didn't work. Hold on. I haven't done this before. This is Doreen's specialty. 1, 2, 3. Hope I did it. We'll see. But let's answer questions in the meantime. Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have questions in the chat at the moment.
Okay. That's fine. So just in closing, what I'd like to say is that if you haven't created your resume, it's a really good time to, and that'll help you migrate some of your content onto your LinkedIn. And within LinkedIn, it's a great idea to research other people that are already in your field. The research and researching job descriptions that you're interested in can help you define what it is that you have and what it is that you need to have to get to the point that you want to in your future. Shannon, I see we do have a question.
Yes.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Candy?
Yes.
Okay, you go ahead. Then we have one in the chat as well.
All right. So my question to Naomi, my name is Candy, and I just want to ask this question.
Sure.
I did midwifery way back in my country, so I have experience in delivering babies, and I just want to ask a question. With that experience that I have, even though I'm in nursing program in Mercy College, can I put that as an experience?
So were you a midwife?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, absolutely. Where are you from, if I may ask?
Ghana.
So I would definitely put that down. Was that a volunteer position?
No, like college. So the college, I went through college, 3 years. I had a diploma in it.
So I would absolutely, so you can add your college, you can add all of the experiences that you had within your college. And that's a fascinating experience for someone so young to have had. And it shows so many things about you. Your level of confidence, your understanding of human anatomy, your strength and fortitude to be able to help women through that experience. So I would say, absolutely, that's something to add to your profile, particularly because it is within the auspices of nursing and medical and healthcare background. So I would definitely add that to your profile.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. I think there was another question about a profile picture. So I think that the question is, do you need a professional photo? That's how I'm reading it. And what if you use something else? So is that correct? Is the person who posted that still on? Let's see.
Yeah,
so
Mahidi?
Mahidi?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. Your interpretation is correct, Naomi.
Oh, okay. So you don't need to pay someone to take a professional photo. Absolutely not. I mean, cameras are so phenomenal these days that oftentimes an iPhone or some of the other phones have a better camera than you could possibly buy. So it doesn't have to be a professional photo. It just has to be the right style of photo for whatever the field is that you're in. and some people do have other things that aren't them in their photo, but I do not suggest that. I think it's really important for people to know who they're talking to. And studies have shown that LinkedIn profiles that have photos have more likelihood of being people who are reached out to by recruiters than far beyond photos who don't. So there used to be like a 50-50 split between people who had photos and not, but now I think it's at about 10 to 12% of all LinkedIn profiles that don't have a photo. So you're in the minority, and it's a setback because then someone who is looking from the outside wonders why you wouldn't post a picture of yourself. It's not like a creepy sort of thing. LinkedIn is a professional network, so you want it to be a professional photo. I hope that answers your question. Does that answer your question? Oh, you're welcome. So Megan, I see that you have a question as well. How long should a profile summary be? LinkedIn will only show about 6 or 7 lines of whatever you write within the profile summary. So, so after that, it goes to the word more, and somebody would have to click on it to read further. So I would say that there's no real amount of space that you need to look to take up. It's not that way. However, you want the opening line to be something that is interesting, that says something about you, so that there's interest on the part of the uneducated reader. And by that, I mean someone who is not educated about who you are. They're just reading these words and trying to figure out if they want to read further. So at that point, the goal is to have them read on and to say something that's interesting and significant for people who are looking for those who do what it is that you're offering. If you want to write more, there are some people that write a long narrative about the work that they do. There are others that simply list their technologies. And it might be that that's within certain fields, that's impressive enough to get a reader to look further. So there's no set amount of lines. So let's see. There was another question about a career change. Let's see. So LinkedIn, so the question, the way I'm reading this question is if you're looking for a job, how can you create a LinkedIn profile without your present employer knowing? So, so LinkedIn is not just for, LinkedIn was for people who were searching for jobs. LinkedIn is now for anybody who exists professionally. Literally, it's like you don't exist professionally without a LinkedIn profile. So I'm seeing people 18 years old, 17 years old with LinkedIn profiles because they have dog walking businesses or want to get started, or at some universities it's required for Business 101. It's like headshot LinkedIn profile in September freshman year. So LinkedIn's for everybody, and it's not just a matter of looking for a job. So it's in your best interest and in your employer's best interest, because most employers have products or services, or even nonprofits who are looking for funding. They're not known if they're not on LinkedIn. So it's just benefits your employer if you have a profile on LinkedIn. And you don't have to say anywhere in that profile that you're looking for a job. And as long as you don't connect with anyone within your company, and you don't have to, you could ignore requests to connect, then you should be good to go. They're not going to notice what you're doing. But really none of it, the behind the scenes stuff applying to jobs, no one sees it anyway. Just don't click, there's an offering on LinkedIn to let recruiters know that you're open to any positions. Don't do that if you're employed and don't want your recruiter to know, or your human resource department. LinkedIn can't guarantee you that your company you won't be searchable for your company. So it can't protect you from that. So just don't check that box and you're fine. So I hope that answered your question. Let's see. Thoughts on sharing political opinions on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn isn't really that format. though some people do add some political nuances to LinkedIn. Most of it is workplace oriented, and that's the type of stuff that you see, like what somebody has a new campaign, or if there's a new product, or there's a new initiative at a company, or someone celebrated a 10-year anniversary at that company, or recruiters posting jobs that they're searching for, or something really interesting that's happening in like the video production field. Someone could post an article about that. That's really what LinkedIn is for. It's, you know, there's a very strong push to keep it not political. Let's see, how do you start to create a LinkedIn profile? You search LinkedIn, and then it says, do you want to sign in, or are you new to LinkedIn and you want to create a profile? You can start without a picture. You could start with just your name, your location, and LinkedIn asks you for an industry. You could be even vague about the industries. LinkedIn's offering of industries is very, very, very vague. So a lot of you might not find your exact industry. Just, you know, sort of do what comes closest to it. And you have a profile. You don't even need any connections to start with. Or if you don't have any connections and you want to have one, you can just start with me. And I'll be more than happy to accept. Just let me know where I met you from, okay? But I'm more than open to it. Let's see.
Okay, Lawrence has a question, and his hand is
Yes.
raised. Lawrence.
If you had a gap in your resume because of illness, okay. So people do have gaps. There are a lot of people that have gaps for different reasons. Right now, people have gaps because they were furloughed due to COVID, or people have gaps because they had to take care of a grandparent or a parent or an ill child. So I'm not sure how long a gap that you're talking about, but was there something else that you did during that gap that was maybe interesting? Did you create a painting, or did you do an online course in something, or learn a language? If you did, then that's what you did during that gap. But people leave the job market for different periods for different reasons, and that's just something that happens within the human experience. Not everybody could stay working full time for always, and there are a lot of reasons why, personal reasons. The working out the language for how to discuss that within a job interview would be the next goal, so that you have the right texture of the language, so that you're not defensive because you have no reason to be, so that you're not really sharing something personal about yourself, but that you had a reason that you had to step away from your work for a period of time. I have a client right now who is in Los Angeles. He worked for one of the world's largest ad agencies, and his mother in Huntington, California got ill. And so he took a one-year position at a smaller ad agency closer to where she lived, and he moved in with her until she unfortunately passed. Now he's back in Los Angeles, and what we found was that he was grappling with how to tell his story without intention. It's very important that you're intentional about your story. So you made choices. Those were intentional choices. Those were things that you had to do. As long as you're authentic when you're discussing your resume and your background, and you feel an ownership of it, it's not you're not being interviewed because you stepped away from the job market. You're being interviewed because you have a skill right then and there that's important to this employer. So don't lose sight of that. Any other questions? You're welcome to everyone who's saying thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Very good.
So again, I'm Naomi Kohler. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I wish you the best of luck. Stay safe. And please spend 10 minutes a day on LinkedIn. So, coffee and LinkedIn, that's what I always advocate. It's not, the more you're on it, the more you'll find that it's just so interesting. Look at profiles and look at job descriptions and see what's happening in the field of your choice, and see what the whole world is doing on LinkedIn. There might be other careers that you don't even know about that are out there and waiting for you. So the world is yours. Just take advantage of all the information that LinkedIn has to offer. I wish you the best of luck and look forward to seeing you somewhere on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much. That was lovely.
Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate
Best of
that.
luck to you. Shannon, I'll turn it back to you.
Same.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Naomi. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today, this afternoon. You can look for me as well on LinkedIn, Shannon Hargrove on the career team. I'm happy to connect with you all as well. And join us next week. We're going to dive deeper into the profile experience and kind of walk through all those sections that Naomi outlined for us today. And that'll be next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, same room. So come on back. We'll see you then.
Take care, everyone. Bye
Thank
now.
you. That was
Thank you.
lovely. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome. See you next week then.
See ya.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.